Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today. I thought I'd do a Q&A. So a little while ago, I asked for Q&A questions and I was going to sit down and film that, and I started filming it, but then the lighting went really badly, and when I went to go edit it, I was like, no, it's literally me looking like I'm sitting in the dark. So I thought I will reattempt it. So if you're one of the people that asked the questions in my community tab and you're like, Kat, never did that video, I apologize. This is like a month late, but I did try and I failed, but I'm trying again. Now with some of these questions, I did do text answers because I didn't really think they were worth sort of like verbal answers. So for example, someone was asking to see a declutter of my collection. I said that I did one last year. So, you know, some of these things I did actually answer in the community tabs. So if you got an answer, you probably won't get one in here. All right, so Ashley said, how did Boogie and Doodles, I'll get to that in a second, come into your life? How old are they? So I've got two cats. They're right behind me. That's Boogie, and Doodles, Durdles, is there. So Doodles, her name is actually Dudley, and it just evolved to Duds, Durds, Doodles. So people like to think that, or people hear that I'm saying Doodles. I would never call my cat Doodle. It just reminds me of how little kids refer to their penis. But her name's Doodles, but her actual name's Dudley, and we adopted her from a sort of rescue place it was in 2010, I believe. So she's coming up to 10 years old. I think in January she's 10 years old. I did do a video, I think last year, sort of talking a little bit more about the cats and describing their sort of personalities and what they do. So she is, a rescue. She's kind of anxious and, but also friendly. So originally when people come into my house, if they don't know her, she'll bolt and hide under the bed or into the wardrobe. But then as soon as she realizes it's not dangerous, she'll come out like an hour or two later and then just start sitting on everyone's laps and just shedding heaps of hair. So she's a funny one. Boogie is, his name's Baby. And I used to have a vlog channel, which I put everything on private because I stopped vlogging. And I noticed that also I was putting up possibly a little bit too much information that people could try to start figuring out where I live, and I found that really uncomfortable. So I put everything on private, but if you did watch that, you'd see him. We got him when he was, we were told, we thought he was a bit older, but he was actually probably more like 5 weeks old. And we got him through a friend's family member whose cat had kittens. They were going to go to the council, get taken to the pound, be put up for adoption. So before they did that, they told us that the kittens were self-sufficient. So we wanted to pick one up before they disappeared. And I found my son Boogie. He was the kitten, and I'll try to put a photo on the screen if I can find it. But there was a litter of kittens, and they were all, whenever you pick them up, they were like meowing and like looking off in different directions. He was like eye contact. He was like, oh, hello. You're interesting. He did not cry. He was just like, oh, you're very intriguing. And so you just hold him and he'd just be looking at you. And so I sort of formed a bond with him, and I knew that he seemed like he had a personable sort of, he didn't seem like he was scared or too upset, whereas you'd pick up other cats and they'd be like scratching and getting all upset. So I picked my Boogie, and I realized when we took him home that he needed a lot more help than we expected. Luckily, we were on holidays at the time. It was over Christmas, so we had to hand feed him for, I think it was like 2 to 3 weeks. I was on holidays for 2 weeks, so I got to do it a lot, but then my mum had to come and look after him during the day and babysit him. So that's why he got the name Baby, because he was our little baby. We didn't realize how small he was, but because of that, he's like become our little like best friend. Like he sleeps with us. He like showers with me. Like he stands on top of the shower while I'm showering. He's become my little shadow, my little best friend. So so that's how they came into my life. And luckily, Doodles does not like other cats, but because we got Boogie when he was so little, which once again, Boogie is the progression of a nickname from Baby, whatever. I think he wasn't much of a threat. He didn't have like a strong cat scent. He smelled like milk. He was just a little baby. So Doodles didn't even realize he was a cat. And then she just got used to him. And now they're like best friends and they're sleeping together, which is what they do all day because they're lovely. All right, Kit Tur said, what are your favorite vid projects to do with Hailey versus on your own? Also, if you're a Drag Race fan, who are your best queens and why? Okay, so I'm assuming the first part of the question is, do I like to do my own videos or with Hailey? And I would actually prefer to do videos with Hailey. There's something that's quite cathartic about doing videos on my own. I've always got something to do if I'm bored. I can just go, ooh, I'm going to play with some makeup, or I'm going to sit down and chat, or here's a good reason to put some makeup on today, or whatever it might be. I do like the hobby side of doing this channel, but that's how I see it. It's just like my little. Some people write in their diary and they talk about their experiences on their diary or on a forum or a blog or whatever. And this is sort of my version of that. So I just like to document and talk about makeup that interests me because it's just cathartic. It's a release. I try not to put too much pressure on myself creating really innovative, interesting videos because that takes the fun out of it. So for me, this channel is it's definitely a hobby, and it's just sort of like I sit back, I talk about what I've been playing with, what I've been liking, what I don't like. And it's not so much to influence people or to anything like that. It's just sort of me reflecting on what I've been trying. So for me, it's like, dear diary, today I've been using the L'Oreal Infallible foundation. That's what this sort of channel is. So there's an element to it that I really like. It's sort of like the equivalent of like sitting down and reading a book. It's sort of relaxing and it's sort of fun to do. When it comes to beauty news, the process is more fun. I love chatting to Hailey. I love sitting down with Hailey. I love brainstorming with Hailey, but there's more pressure to that as well. So because that's our job and we've got a lot more deadlines and the videos take 10 times the amount of time to film than these and to edit than these. These videos probably take maybe an hour to film each of them, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And then it might take an hour and a half to edit. Then you do like half an hour to do the thumbnail and the metadata, and you can pretty much have a video done within a few hours if you need to. So that's where it's more hobby. Whereas beauty news, the videos take upwards of 20 hours to create sometimes, or definitely the beauty news episodes. So that one, even though they're more fun to do, there's like more pressure to it. So I would see that being as like a more fun working environment. But there's shit to do. So it's sort of a hard one to compare, but I enjoy the process of filming more with Hailey, but I like the sort of chilled element to this channel, if that makes sense. Do I watch Drag Race? Yes, I've been watching Drag Race since season 1, and I'm not talking about like I went back and I watched season 1. I watched it when it was airing in the year that season 1 aired. I remember it was just after high school, and a friend of mine, I think I was at his birthday, and he was telling me about it, and I was like, that sounds great. So I literally went home and I was streaming it online, and I remember the really bad quality of it, and it was really shit. But yeah, that's when I started watching it. So I've been watching it from the very start. My favorite queen in the first season was Nina Flowers. I thought Nina Flowers was great. It's sort of hard though, because there's so many seasons these days. I feel like I had some standout people that I liked, and maybe over time you sort of forget about them because there's so many drag queens. Or sometimes what they do later on, you sort of go, I don't love them as much. Like I really loved Bianca Del Rio. I even saw her perform when she came to Australia, but the first time I think. But now I'm sort of like, I'm sort of over that sort of style of humour. I've always liked Alyssa Edwards. I think she's sassy as, and she's quite funny. I also really like Trixie and Ben Della Creme, but when they came back for All Stars, I think I didn't like them as much, which is weird. So yeah, sometimes things change over time, but I like a lot of them. They're all very good. Jared Maples, hello Jared, says, I'd love to see you vlog anything really, maybe a makeup shopping trip. I used to vlog, and I think I used to, vlog shops a little bit. It's sort of hard because I'm a bit of an introvert, and even though I'm quite loud and I can be quite opinionated, I am a bit of an introvert, and I really hate drawing attention to myself in public. It just makes me really, really embarrassed. So when I see, and there are some people around that I know personally that vlog really openly and love the attention, or they loved getting their photos taken or taking selfies in public. and I just watch them and I'm just like, oh, I get like secondhand cringe. So even though I did enjoy, once again, sort of like the Dear Diary, today I'm doing this and this is what I've been thinking, this is what I've been doing. I kind of like that sort of Dear Diary element of vlogging, but I really hated the public embarrassment that I felt whenever I pulled out a vlogging camera. So vlogging is just not for me. Another sort of thing that I didn't like about vlogs was I found that it often gave away a lot of like personal information that can compromise, you know, your sort of security. And also I noticed that if I was talking about particular people, and I'd not say bad things about people, but I always found that those people somehow watched it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know you watched my channel. And they're like, I don't, but I found out that you were talking about me. And you're like, oh, it's just fucking awkward. So even if it wasn't like a bad experience, I just felt like it was unnecessarily uncomfortable for me and awkward, the outcome of it. So yeah, I don't think it's for me. Okay, Mrs. Radzap. Hello, Mrs. Radzap. Another familiar name. What was your job at the hospital from way back when? What was it like to work in that environment? I actually had 2 jobs in different hospitals. I worked in 3 different hospitals, but I had 2 jobs. The first one, 10 years ago, I was a sleep scientist. So I worked in 2 sleep labs where you set people up for the sleep studies. So you put all the electrodes and all the equipment on them, and then you would monitor them overnight. So there was like 3 different shifts in a sleep lab. You have the setup shift, which is generally 6 till midnight. So you set up a bunch of patients, you make sure all the signals are going fine. And then you have the overnight shift, which is the monitoring overnight. And then you sort of take all the electrodes off everyone in the morning. That was my main shift that I did. So that was 12:30 to 7:30 a.m. I think it was. And then there was the day shifts, which were sort of, you could do the reporting, and also set people up with CPAP machines. So I did that for a couple of years. I did that in 2 places, one predominantly and then another one. And that was a fun job, but it just takes a toll on you, because I think the longest stint I did of overnights was about, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks. And you end up being a bit of a zombie. So yeah, I ended up studying after that to just open more doors, because I found I sort of, especially at night, I sort of wanted more to do. So I was like, if I had a book to read or something and I could study, I sort of wanted to start studying part-time just to give me something else to focus on, but didn't work out. I ended up studying full-time. And then later on, because I had experience in a hospital, I did emergency admissions. So I worked more of an admin role while I was studying law, and I did that casually and part-time, depending. I did that for about 3.5 years. And that was busy. That was a hectic job. Very stressful. Health fund checks, admissions, registrations, talking to doctors and nurses and patients and dealing with all of them. And it's a high stress environment, because when people are in the emergency department, they're generally stressed and upset. So yeah, that was something that I did. So I liked working in hospitals. I think because I've worked in hospitals for about I worked in hospitals probably in total about 6 years. It's a familiar environment to me. And what I like most about it is getting to know a lot of the staff, because like the orderlies are cool. You get to know security, you get to know the kitchen people. There's so many people you can talk to. I found that really, really good. So I always enjoyed working in the hospitals, but it can be quite stressful. REK saying, more eyeshadow looks. Man, I'm still burnt out from doing, I think, the 7 eyeshadow palette reviews throughout May and June. That's why I'm wearing boring brown. I'm like, this is so refreshing to me. So I'll get back onto it. I've got, I think, 2 palettes that I want to start reviewing. I just need to mentally prepare myself and be like, do I want to start this journey? And the answer is going to be yes, I will. Another issue that I've had is that when I have to do something that takes quite a lot of time, the lighting at the moment in winter has been so bad. And there's been times where I filmed a few things and then I'm like, oh, it's so much effort trying to like salvage the footage to make it watchable, because everything looks dark and it looks blue. So I've got some new lights for the beauty news, so I could always use those. But there was a period of time where I was just like, everything looks so miserable, but I do want to get back into the eye look reviews very soon. All right, Heidi's saying, I'd love a chatty video about how/when you started getting interested in makeup, how your tastes have changed and how you evolved since then. So I won't do a whole video on it, but I will talk about it briefly now. It was actually funny. I was sitting on a tram coming home about a week ago, and a lady, so it was a really packed tram, but then a few people got off and a lady just leant over to me. She goes, I love your makeup. And I was like, oh, thank you. And she goes, I never do makeup unless I'm sort of going out or going to an event or something. And I was like, yeah, no, I understand that. I explained to her that I sort of started doing it because in high school, I used to love art. I used to be quite artistic. I sort of went a more science law route after high school, but because I thought I want to get a good job. But before that, I was like, I loved painting, I loved art classes, art was my favorite subject. So I've always been quite artistic, but I've also been quite, I feel like, and this is going to sound bad, but I'm sure people understand, when you are quite artistic, but you also like seeking knowledge and you feel like you are capable of having quite an intelligent job, often you go, okay, I'm going to put the art aside and focus on the path that will lead me to an intelligent job that will like satisfy me mentally and it's going to be really great. So that's what I sort of did after high school, and I sort of put my art aside and I stopped painting and I just started focusing on studying and doing all that kind of stuff. And then I just found that sort of my creative energy I started focusing on makeup. So that was my daily sort of creative outlet. So I really enjoyed the process of sitting down and painting my face. And I didn't really make the connection at the time, but I think now looking back, it was because I was feeling a void. And it's just been an outlet that I really enjoy. Like I do want to start picking up like maybe painting again down the track, but yeah, it's definitely kept me entertained and filled that void since that time. And I think, how's my taste changed? Like I think, taste definitely changes as you get older, or you learn more, but I think I'm just more happy to play with different things now. I think when I started, I was sort of quite basic, like, a wash of color, wing liner, mascara, a bit of blush, and generally, I don't know, if I was going out a red lip, if I wasn't, just a lip balm. Whereas now I'm happy to play with glitter and multi-chrome colors, and I'm a little bit more open to experimenting, but I also feel like that's a reflection of how the makeup industry has grown a lot. So when I'm talking about experimenting with makeup, I'm talking about like 2004. So 15 years ago, there weren't multi-chrome pigments. There weren't, neon eyeliners. These things weren't around. So you were stuck with what you had. Also, the big difference was that there wasn't much online shopping. So in Australia, we were stuck with drugstore, MAC, and some of the more luxurious brands like YSL, Lancome, blah, 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 blah. So we had department store and we had drugstore. So when it came to all the interesting makeup, that only really came in the next few years when, like maybe 2008, 9, 10, when you started buying things online and people started realizing the demand for more makeup in Australia, that they started stocking things like Urban Decay and Too Faced. And I remember when they came to Australia. So I don't think necessarily my tastes have changed. It's just that I've been playing with a lot more and I'm more comfortable with a lot more makeup. Is that how you say the name? Iselenium? Do you think you would ever go back to a non-beauty job if offered? What's your dream job? What's your favorite video game? Interesting. Look, it's a funny thing. So if you're not aware, so this is my hobby channel, but beauty news, which some people don't know that I work on another channel. That's my current job. Now, it's funny. I love working with Hayley and we really enjoy creating content for beauty news. But I think we both don't love it being our full-time job, if that makes sense. Because, what is fun and you do as a passion project, you still have the passion for it. But the more you do it and the more you rely on it for income and you're forcing yourself to get a certain amount of videos done and deadlines and blah, 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 it does take the fun out of it a little bit. But also we're sort of getting older. Like we're I'm 33, she's turning 35 later this year. So we're both like, we're considering things like settling down and having kids and doing these kind of things. And I don't think full-time YouTube is really something that we're both gung-ho with in the long term. It's fun now and we love working for ourselves. So yeah, it sounds pretty negative, but coming back to the question, I think, would I go back to a normal job if I was offered? No, depends on the job. Like I would love a part-time job or something else outside of YouTube that I would enjoy doing, but I also don't like working for other people. When you start working for yourself, you start realizing you use your full potential because you're only relying on yourself. I get more sort of job satisfaction about it. I hate going to an office and doing work for someone that's paying me shit and I know they're making heaps of money off me. It just drives me bananas. So I would definitely be open to another avenue, but it would be another avenue for me to do something for myself, if that makes sense. So yeah, I definitely want to continue YouTube as a hobby, and I think Hayley and I want something else going on outside of YouTube to keep us sane, bring in more consistent money because YouTube is very unreliable, but also do YouTube as a hobby again because it sort of takes the fun out of things a little bit. So I think there will be changes in the next few years, but if someone said to me, hey, Kat, I've got a really cool lawyer job, do you want it? The answer is going to be no, because unless it's at my own law firm and I'm working for myself, I don't want to. But something that I'm thinking like in the future, for example, like I wouldn't mind, doing freelance editing for people or, something like that, something that's related to what I'm currently doing and I enjoy, but it's not like my full-time job is managing a channel. I feel like that you can be stuck in your head too much and it takes the fun out of it. Also, ironically, Hayley and I, we don't love social media. So having to immerse ourselves in social media so much, we get a little bit frustrated sometimes. All right. Oh, we got a bunch of questions. This is from Sabi or Sabi. So she said, there's so much she wants to ask me and Hayley. Hayley's not here. I'm sorry. What's your favorite hobby that your viewers don't know about? That is a good question. Now, I don't know what my viewers do and don't know. It depends on how much they watch. But my hobbies outside YouTube are I think I'm a pretty normal person and my hobbies outside of YouTube are pretty slim. Like, I do want to pick up some more hobbies because I feel like I need some more work-life balance. But when I'm not working on YouTube, which is funny because like I said, I sort of have a YouTube job and then also a YouTube hobby. So this channel is sort of my hobby and I do this a lot in my spare time. But I love going to see movies. I love binging TV shows. I like reading books. I like seeing my family and friends. Like if someone said what's an ideal day for me, I reckon I would go have a coffee or brunch with some friends, maybe go with my boyfriend to go see a movie in the afternoon, and then maybe have friends over for a game night or something. Like I kind of like socializing. So when I've got a spare pocket of time, I like to catch up with friends. So so I've got the socializing and work thing down. I just don't have another hobby that really fills voids. So yeah, I want to pick up a few hobbies that I used to have, like go back to maybe doing some painting. I really want to start pottery. But these are the sort of things that I've been wanting to do for years and I just haven't done them yet. So I want to start going to more exercise classes. So there's things that I need to slip in, but I just haven't done it yet. Okay, so she's got a lot of questions. I'm going to answer some of them because they're quite fun. Do you like to cook? If not, what's your go-to takeout menu? I don't mind cooking. I like baking more than I like cooking. And I like cooking for people, but I don't like cooking for myself. So if it came down to just cooking for myself or myself and my partner, I hate cooking. I just feel like it takes up too much of my time. By the time I think of what I want to eat, I'm hungry and I want it now. So I like fast things like making a quick pasta sauce and some pasta or making a soup, something like that. If it's just me, I make sandwiches all the time. I love eating sandwiches. But I do enjoy cooking meals when people are coming over. So I actually find that fun. Like you set aside a day, you go to the shops, you buy the ingredients, you cook it all. I find that quite fun to do, but I don't like doing that every night. It's too much. So what's your favorite takeout menu? I don't know. I really like pizza. Pizza's great. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why? I would say my grandmother, because I miss her very much. Are you usually early, late, or right on time? I'm one of those people that are always 10 minutes late. Always 10 minutes late, to the point that I'm filming this and I know that in the next 5 minutes to 10 minutes, Simon's coming around. We're going to go see a movie, which is a great day. We're getting a coffee and seeing a movie. But yeah, I'm always a little bit late. And often he'll come around, he'll buzz, and I'll be like, I'm just finishing filming. Come up. I'm really sorry. Yeah, I take after my mum. My dad and my sister are always early. My mum and I are always a tiny bit late. So it's quite funny. Morning or night owl? Definitely a night owl. Mornings I'm a struggle with. And I tend to get like a second wind of inspiration to start working at night. So generally about 10 o'clock, I'm like, yeah, I can get back on my computer and start editing. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, it's 1 a.m. Shit. So I do that a lot. Are you named after anyone? No. My parents actually thought I was going to be a boy, so they had a boy name picked out. And then surprise, I'm a girl. They had to pick one on the spot. Do you have a garden? No, I've got a balcony. Do you enjoy gardening? I used to enjoy gardening. That was a hobby when I actually had a garden. And there's a few other questions, and lastly, are you ever planning on coming to Denmark? Because I'd love that. Oh, that's so sweet. I'd love to come to Denmark. I'd love to go most places, but right now I need the funds and the time to do it. And also I need someone to look after these kids, which is very hard. All right, I'm assuming this is Emma Chua. Any tips for law students trying to figure out how to get a job after graduation? It's a really hard one. I'm just going to see if there's any other quick questions, because if there's not, I might just finish on this one. So there's a lot of requests for video ideas, like boyfriend buys my makeup, best products from the past 5 years, stuff like that. So there's a few video suggestions. I'm noting them. Thank you, guys. Tara said, how did you and your partner meet? Will you want to marry and have kids? And the answer is we met on Australia Day at a pub. We became friends. We just got along, became friends, and we had mutual friends. And then we started dating, I think about 3 months later. I personally don't want to get married. Like I said before, I really hate being the center of attention. It makes me really uncomfortable. I also don't like the idea of spending tens of thousands of dollars or just thousands of dollars on a day that I am not excited for. So if I was to ever marry, it would probably be eloping. And that would probably be like, oh, we're in Vegas. Why not do it now? Who cares? But to me, I don't really care about marriage. My parents aren't together. It's not something that I don't have a really idyllic view of marriage, which is quite pessimistic of me, but it's the truth. So for me, I'm not like, oh my God, I just can't wait for marriage. I've never cared about marriage. I've also never really cared about kids, but I would consider having kids. It's just that, when it happens, it happens. But it hasn't been like, I need to have kids by this age. Like if I want to have them, I want to have them before it becomes complicated and hard to do. But yeah, I was always of the mindset that if I didn't have them, it doesn't bother me too much. But if I did, fine. So that is more likely on the cards than marriage for me, which is strange. But I'm going to finish up with this law question. And we're going to end on a negative note. So I actually feel really bad for all law students out there because getting jobs in the law field is very, very, very difficult. And it's a bit of a hard one for me because I got into studying law because I really enjoyed the idea of law reform and research. So I came from a research background. I did science and psychology. So I did a lot of lab reports and I really liked the idea of researching things. Also, when I was a teenager, I really loved, documentaries about true crime things and also injustices that were done and how they could have been fixed. And I was also exposed to a lot of low socioeconomic areas and the struggles that they have and the struggles with law that they have. So I always wanted to get into law to research and also to do law reform. And when I finished studying, there was like a freeze on government jobs. So there were no jobs being hired. And so I had the option of doing my master's, which I didn't want to do because I'd just done 7 years of studying. I wanted to sort of start working. So I did my postgrad diploma in legal, what do they call it? I don't even remember what it was. Legal practice, I think it was, to qualify as becoming a lawyer. And then I just got a job, like pretty much I found the first job that I got offered, I took, and it was in a field that is quite boring, notoriously boring. But it got me good practice, good exposure. In Australia, you need to have a supervised practicing certificate for 2 years. And it's pretty much well known that once you get your 2 years up, it's so much easier to find another job. So I stayed in that job for about 2.5 years full time. And then I sort of worked part time. But unfortunately, that killed my interest in law. So for me, working in the legal field and getting so underpaid, I remember going from my admin job at the hospital where I worked 3 days a week. I was earning more there than working full-time as a lawyer. And I had to travel an hour in traffic on my way there and on my way back. And I was like, what the fuck have I done? And I stayed there because I was like, I need to get the practice and I need to do this. But it really did kill my motivation in law. And to be fair as well, the legal field is quite sexist. It's hard. Like I had a male co-worker come in after me and he almost surpassed me really quickly with much less experience because he was the kind of like charming male. So it's a really hard field. They will underpay you. They will make you work really hard for whatever money you're getting. And you will realize it's a lot of just paperwork and shuffling papers and dealing with angry people. So it's a field that can take a lot from you, and it's very sad because it's a very important field. All right, editing Cat here. I just wanted to sort of expand on this a little bit because this sort of answer got cut short a little bit. You'll see in a second. But this is like a weird field because I feel like when people go into law, there is a lot of prestige involved in law. There's a lot of pride that comes with your family, like having a lawyer in the family, and you don't want to let them down if you decide to leave the field. But I also wanted to say that I personally know 2 people that I studied with that has since taken their own lives after working in this field. So it is not unfortunately, it's not a fantastic field to work in a lot of instances. So take care of yourself. And if you are going to go into the legal field, make sure you have resources available to you that if you're struggling, you can turn to people or maybe professionals for advice because, it can take a really bad toll on a lot of people, and it is often not a pleasant environment for a lot of people. I was very lucky that the law firm I was in, even though I found the work very boring, the people were very lovely and they were quite easy to work with. But I've heard many other horror stories, and a lot of people find that they don't want to leave because they feel like they're going to let their families down. But it's, look after yourself. If you find that it's not for you, you can use your law degree in so many other beneficial ways. But you can feel like it's not worth your time. And that's why I didn't really want to pursue it. But in my back of my mind, in the future, I might go and do my master's and pursue what I really wanted to do with law, which was research and law reform and making laws better for people that are sort of like struggling. But right now I've got no passion for the field, and I think it's a really hard one because you need to go through a lot of shit to be valued. So it's hard to get a job. The job you're going to get is crap, but if you're really keen, keep persisting. If not, my biggest advice is there's so many organizations that will use you and value you, like banks. So try to use your degree in a good way that makes you happy, because it's tough. All right, I've got Simon here, so I've got to go. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.